Today, we're going to go into whether intermittent fasting is a feasible diet strategy or not, some of its benefits and pitfalls, and we are going to find out if intermittent fasting is a good strategy for you. And if you fill out my assessment, the intermittent fasting assessment, I have it linked here in the description. If you want to do that and send it over to me, I can tell you what fasting strategy might be best for you. And let me start by saying that I'm not necessarily a proponent for intermittent fasting, nor am I against intermittent fasting. And I'll just go right into the presentation, and you'll get a good feel for what my opinion is on the intermittent fasting strategy. All right, so let's go ahead and get started.
So what is intermittent fasting? Basically, what intermittent fasting is it's when you determine a period of time where you will consume close to nothing. Some say coffee with a little bit of milk is okay. Others say keep it to water. Either way, they all involve relatively brief, intermittent, or random periods of not eating. As you can see on the lower part of this chart, there are many different ways or methods, should I say, that people approach intermittent fasting. Some people who are proponents for intermittent fasting believe that random is the best way to go. Their belief is that we should behave like our evolutionary ancestors did. As humans evolved to get their food and exercise randomly, so should we. Then again, there are some other schedules, as you can see here. 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating, etc. One of the more popular methods is the 16-hour fast and the 8-hour feed. This one is much more maintainable since you don't have to go very long without eating. Is intermittent fasting a feasible weight loss method? Studies have confirmed that it is effective to practice intermittent fasting for weight loss. As you can see here, there was a study where participants were able to choose between 3 different dieting methods. You can see the effectiveness and adherence here. Intermittent fasting shows that it was effective, and adherence was much higher than modified paleo, but less than Mediterranean, which is worth noting. The reason for this quite possibly could be the rigidness of the approach of that method. I have a very exclusive secret for you, if you will, about why intermittent fasting works. And so let's push the button and see. Reveal secret. When you practice intermittent fasting, typically your overall calorie consumption decreases, which causes an energy deficit, which leads to weight loss. Wow. There are different ways you can approach creating this calorie deficit, and intermittent fasting is one of them. Some potential benefits of intermittent fasting include regulating blood glucose, controlling blood lipids like triglycerides, reducing the risk of coronary disease, managing body weight, helping you gain or maintain lean mass, reducing the risk of cancer, as well as many other potential benefits. However, I do want to note that these are not benefits that are likely to happen for everyone, just some people. And a lot of the research that's been done to date has been done using animal models. It is also really worth noting that a lot of the research has been compared to a control that eats the normal quote unquote normal Western diet. So that doesn't really help. We don't have a group that's eating whole fruits and vegetables to begin with that is also trying intermittent fasting. Now, there are also some other potential reasons in these studies for those benefits. A couple being, maybe it's because you're eating fewer calories than you burn. So not particularly the method in which you are consuming fewer calories, but just that you are consuming fewer calories. Also, what I think is probably a really likely scenario for these benefits are eating a diet lower in processed foods, chemicals, and pollutants would more likely lead to these benefits than just intermittent fasting alone. Some disadvantages of intermittent fasting. Some are more obvious than others. One of the obvious ones being getting hangry and how that affects your mood. You might have massive cravings, stomach rumblings, low mental focus, and really keeping yourself from eating food is just very psychologically challenging at times, depending on how long you're fasting. Now, longer fasts can also harm muscle health and performance, as well as negatively affect nutrient intake. So, for example, if you are fasting a longer period, or if you are doing a lot of training, let's say you're training for, a half marathon or something, you're going to need those nutrients to maintain muscle mass. And perhaps you're not training, perhaps it's just a longer fast. Your body still needs nutrients and proteins to build body tissues. So you'll want to be careful with longer fasts, greater than 36 hours. It may or may not be obvious, but it's definitely worth noting that when you eat less of everything, you also eat fewer vitamins, minerals, and beneficial phytochemicals.
Will intermittent fasting work for you? Intermittent fasting may have some benefits for health, longevity, and fat loss, but you should be careful when you're doing it. One reason for women in particular is that women specifically are more sensitive to hormonal changes when fasting. So I wouldn't try to fast when you are trying to get pregnant, if you have thyroid issues, and if you do choose to, be careful. Pay attention to what your body is telling you and how you're feeling. Intermittent fasting can be great if you are trying to learn the difference between head hunger and body hunger. So whether you're actually hungry or just having a craving. It can improve insulin sensitivity and recalibrate your body's use of stored fuel. It can help you learn more about your own body and your relationship with food. It can help you lose fat if you are careful about it. And it's also kind of awesome to be able to take a break from the work of food prep and, that obligation to have a meal 3 times a day. So it could be good in that regard. It's not so great, and I would avoid it if you have a history of disordered eating. Definitely if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. Children's, adolescents, and elderly people. I think that at least those first 2 go without saying. If you exercise often and intensely, you may want to avoid it or do it carefully, or choose a fasting schedule that's a little less extreme. People who need a consistently higher energy intake every day. So if you have a really hard, laborious job and you need lots of energy and calories, then it might not be a good idea for you to fast. If you've got an overabundance of stress, honestly, I feel like this falls under the category of being a parent. If you can't handle your hangriness and your moodiness when you're trying to fast, might not be a good method for you. Maybe you should just try something more sustainable, like like my weight loss program. If you've got diabetes, I wouldn't try it out. And if you're somebody who takes medications and you need to eat food with those medications, it might also not be a super awesome idea for you to try fasting. So is intermittent fasting a quick fix or a long-term strategy? When it comes to eating, there is no finish line. So when intermittent fasting ends, if you're not planning on doing it for the rest of your life, which I kind of doubt you are, where does that leave you? If you're fasting for 5 months and you want to lose a certain amount of weight, where does that leave you at the end of it? When you're eating the way that you normally eat from day to day, what do you think is going to happen? Well, it's likely that you're probably going to gain that weight back if you don't change your lifestyle. Plans like this, plans that require rigid adherence, more often than not results in this I'm done. So that's something to consider. Ultimately, fasting is a nice to have strategy. It's unnecessary to get in shape, and alone it's insufficient. However, what is necessary and sufficient are eating fresh, unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods, regardless of what kind of eating style you adopt. Eating food in the right amounts and at the right times, so learning not to eat to comfort yourself. It's also necessary to learn how to prepare healthy food in the first place. I work with some people, and a lot of people don't like to cook, and they want to try to get away with not cooking at all. And I hate to tell you, but you can pay for a meal plan if you want, but you're not going to pay for that meal plan forever. You do need to learn some cooking skills, even if it's just frozen to fabulous type cooking. But it is essential to learn the essentials of good nutrition, and it's the best thing you can do for your health and your fitness. So regardless of whether you try intermittent fasting or not, you need to be able to adopt a good baseline as far as practicing good nutrition and fitness and overall wellness practices. I want to make you my next transformation story. So check out transcendweightloss.com, and thanks for stopping by, and I will talk to you soon.